Good morning. My name is Joe Reinhardt. I work for the Federation of Worker Cooperatives and the Democracy at Work Institute. A bit of background, the U.S. Federation of Worker Cooperatives is the national membership organization. Our associated think tank, the Democracy at Work Institute, focuses on researching and supporting organizations and implementing cooperative business ownership to those communities most directly affected by social and economic inequality. So we essentially try to development. And I just want to mention a few of the things that are going on around the United States in terms of cities supporting worker rights. I'll talk briefly about a few of the global examples, and you can read more in my testimony. So in the United States, we've focused on the part of policymakers as well as academics, nonprofits, and foundations in supporting worker cooperative development as a way of creating good cooperative jobs that also create long-term community wealth and ongoing employment. Increasing level of integration between city small business development services and the worker cooperative movement and agencies and planning departments. Richmond, California has actually hired a cooperative developer to do cooperative development for entrepreneurs who come to them. Reading, Pennsylvania is founding a city-supported worker cooperative development center. And most excitingly, Jackson, Mississippi is actually looking to turn a major reinvestment water and sewer into a way to support local worker cooperative contractors and and other sort of support for cooperative economic small business development. To go to a few examples, the United well, I will skip over all of this. It's in my testimony, but I think we would encourage, and we're really looking New York City Council to implement systemic cooperative development inside of the city's because really what we're seeing is in the U.S. a lot of cities taking small steps into worker cooperative development, but it's really worth thinking that it's an economic development policy, and if you approach it as a policy, you'll get far better returns, and returns that continue to reinvest themselves and support the city and support jobs and the creation of new jobs in the long term, as opposed to sort of one-off programs or projects or one-off developments that are amazing and vibrant worker cooperatives, but that don't sort of create economy in a city towards resiliency and towards a long-term sort of raising the floor. About sort of helping people climb up the ladder through entrepreneurship, but also it's worth thinking about sort of how worker cooperatives could, and I think that's really where the power of the model comes in.
Thank you.
Arroyo and Councilmember Palma, as well as the committee staff for holding the hearing. My name is Ted Barbieri, Community Development Project of Urban Justice Center. Urban Justice Center has supported many of the co-ops make a much better case for why this support is important than I can. I'm just here to say that civil legal service to work with worker co-ops to help them form and deal with any legal hurdles that come, and it's through the work that we've been doing, we've had a chance to know many of the co-ops in your district, Chair Arroyo, and through partnerships with many community-based organizations like Green Worker and MOM. So we look forward to continue doing that, and thank you so much.
And MOM is not my mother. Can you
say
what that is?
I'm sorry. Mothers on the Move community organizing group in the South Bronx. You've heard from many other examples of worker co-ops in the room today. We're also working with Sunrise Co-op, trying to bring auto repair jobs to Hunts Point from elsewhere. We're having the hearing today, and we look forward to working with the council around worker co-ops.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Carmen Haskins, and I work for the Working World, a profit organization providing loans to worker cooperatives and technical assistance along. Started 10 years ago in Argentina, lending to worker cooperatives there. Sorry. I'm not. Opened an office in Nicaragua. Have an office here in New York. We have loans in Chicago, Baltimore, locally we're working in Queens. We have a project out in the Rockaways in an area that was very deeply affected by Superstorm Sandy. Have started a construction co-op out there. So there's been a lot of talk about thinking about what kind of industries we want to look into. I've heard construction come up in some of the other testimonies. We also work in Brooklyn and in the Bronx. We have created a loan fund in partnership with the Green Worker Cooperatives previously. We've had a really successful, done well, and we've worked internationally. And in those places where we've worked, we've seen that crucial role in how a cooperative economy is formed and how it can grow. Previously, we have heard that one of the biggest barriers for cooperatives, one of the barriers, right, is access to the. So that being, again, what we've heard, having to do credit checks for all of the cooperative members, having to put up personal guarantees for and if our goal is to be inclusive, to create work for those who need it most, then that barrier, we need to make financing accessible. And that's really what we strive to do at the Working World, and that, starting today, we can work hand in hand with the city to really figure out how we can make financing more accessible on a citywide basis. I'm just going to jump to my conclusion here. With small changes that city policy can be a force for inclusive economics and provide new economic. Now more than ever, the city has a chance to grow our cooperative economy and build a more sustainable and equitable city. Thank you.
I'm not going to touch it again after that. You can hear me.
Can we do something about that microphone? Maybe retire it? No?
Let's see. I won't touch it again. I promise. Thank you, Honorable Arroyo, and the rest of the committee for having us and allowing us this testimony in support of worker-owned cooperatives. My name is Carmen White. I am an associate professor of law at CUNY School of Law and also the director of its Community and Economic Development Clinic, which is a mouthful, but basically provide legal support to community-based organizations and institutions that are creating, community-based organizations that are creating vibrant neighborhood institutions and organizing for social and economic justice. So, I think I'll read, that way I can stay in time. Today, I would like to thank the committee for providing the opportunity, and by way of background, I would like to begin by sharing that before joining CUNY, I was at the Urban Justice Center. I've been representing worker-owned cooperatives for 10 years now. My clinic continues to my clinic at CUNY continues to represent worker-owned cooperatives, and we are proud to say that we've worked with organizations that are at the forefront of creating and supporting worker-owned cooperatives, including the Restaurant Opportunity Center New York, Green Worker Cooperatives, and the New York City Network of Worker Cooperatives. More recently, our clinic has actually partnered with Mondragon International, which you already heard is the largest network of cooperatives in the world. If there's any place to visit, I think a field trip should be to the Basque region of Spain. They recently received the Bold Award, which previous recipients were Fiat, Apple, and Google. It's a pretty nice car. But anyway, through this partnership, the clinic has started to develop a framework for a new model of worker-owned cooperatives called union co-ops that workers have created. And we are working with not only local groups in the city, but we are also working with groups out of the city to form unionized worker-owned co-ops. I would just say that I want to echo what Karen said. This is really a strategy that can improve during a time of economic crisis. I think the women before much better in terms of today's inequality, it being its highest since 19. It's kind of unbelievable. And while the 1%, just continue unprecedented wealth, the 99% are experiencing wage stagnation, and more people are unable to provide for themselves and their families. And I think the enormity and the ubiquitous nature of this problem really provides, sadly, an opportunity, a prime opportunity for how to revamp our social economy. I think Americans from all walks of life are actually experiencing the structural ills in our current economic system. About the negative societal impacts in terms of not being able to spend time with their children and work longer hours. And I think that what's becoming clearer and clearer is that I think what's important to stress is the reality of the understanding that
Professor?
I'm up?
Okay.
Okay, so look,
No,
let me
you've
just say
you've
this.
been up.
Okay. Because you have my testimony. But just in terms of some of the questions that you've thrown out, supporting organizations like Karen, but also 10 years ago, I remember SBA being willing to be a guarantee for a loan on behalf of a worker-owned co-op. And like you said, I'm one of those people who say if you come up with an idea, you now have an assignment, I'm willing to look into the procurement process and come up with a proposal as a starting point.
I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Palmer, who's got a couple of questions, and she will chair for me for, I need to take a break, and I'll be back momentarily. Annabelle?
Karen said maybe you can help in sitting and hearing, listening to the testimonies, and the theme seems to be the lack of access to capital. And one of the industries, Karen, that you raised, industry and what's happening in the Rockaways. I'm just wondering, or I'm wondering, what kind of challenges are you facing, if any, from the unions, from the building trades, which are already an organized industry, deal with these types of workers?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Or any of you, I mean, I only because you raised it, Karen, but
Right.
any of you can answer the question.
Right. I probably wouldn't be the best person to answer that question. I'm not that familiar with how the
I mean, I'll just say for some of the workers in the room, often they cannot become licensed. In some cases, they lack documentation status. So we look at licensure requirements, and just in some cases, those are the challenges that they face from getting into that type of work.
I would more broadly say that the U.S. working relationship, the majority of worker owners in the United States are unionized and have unions representing them. And the unions currently, United Food and Commercial Workers, the steel workers, are investing in cooperative development so that it's a good working relationship, and there's a lot to be gained from sort of the interplay. Internationally, I think most interesting, there's a huge charter school movement that's based around cooperatives, but that the teachers union has bought into because the teachers actually get a vote on the board and are part of the owners in the cooperatives. So it's charter schools, but community-owned charter schools where the teachers are engaged.
So much. Thank you all for your testimony. Our next panel is going to be Joseph Holtz, Park Slope Food Co-op. Fritterman, Solidarity New York and New York City, and Josh Simmons, Sinner, New York. And I too apologize for butchering your name. You may begin. Can you just make sure that the button is lit up red?
I want to thank